Get their approval.
Well, I think everybody's here who's going to be here, so let's get started. To the assembled multitudes, if you have any documents for us to review, they go to Commissioner Curran. We'll begin as we do with an invocation and a pledge by Commissioners Pitchford and Harrison respectively. If you wish to join, please rise. Rise, not right.
Everyone, please bow your heads. Heavenly Father, we come to you today asking for your guidance, wisdom, and support as we begin this meeting. Help us engage in meaningful discussion, allow us to grow closer as a group, and nurture the bonds of community. And continue to remind us that all we do here today, all that we accomplish, is for the pursuit of truth and for the greater glory of you and for the service of humanity. We ask these things in your name. Amen.
Amen. Please join with me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you, gentlemen. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Bell,
Here.
Curran.
Here.
Freeling.
Present.
Harrison.
Here.
Hinkleman.
Here.
Majerick.
Here.
Ott. Here. Pittsburgh.
Present.
Ballrath. Werfel. Yarborough. Elliott.
Here.
Mr. Chair, you have 11 present, one absent.
Thank you.
Michigan Association.
Okay, thanks. Minutes. We ought to approve those if anyone,
I'll make a motion
Klein.
to approve the meeting minutes.
moved by Pitchford. Is there support? Supported by Hinkleman. Discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, same sign. Minutes are approved. Madam Clerk, I understand we have communications.
Yes, you received a resolution from Crawford County Board of Commissioners opposing the use of state lands by Camp Grayling by permit received on September 12th. That's all for communications.
Thank you. We have, looks like about 10 resolutions, maybe a little less, no added resolutions that I've heard about. If anyone wants to talk about the resolutions on the agenda, this is the time. Okay. We'll go to the consent calendar. Nobody has moved to pull anything. So we won't be giving individual attention to any resolutions. It'll be all at once. Is there a motion to approve the consent calendar as submitted?
So made.
Moved by Pitchford. Is there support? Supported by Volrath. Discussion. All right, hearing none, Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Curran.
Yes.
Freeling.
Yes.
Harrison.
Yes.
Hinkleman.
Yes.
Majerick.
Yes.
Ott.
Yes.
Pittsburgh.
Yes.
Ballrath.
Yes.
Werfel.
Yes.
Bell. Elliott.
Yes.
Mr. Chair, you have 11 yeas. I was like,
Okay, great. Thank you. We'll do committee reports and admin is first on the list.
Thank you, Beck. First in to see us this morning was Don Trail from Building and Grounds. He provided us with an update on all the projects that he currently has. He also provided some photographs to us to see how, so we can visibly see some of the work that's being done, and some of it is visible. A lot of it is internal, but like the parking lot at the health department, those type of things, you'll be able to see. So he provided us an update on all of that. Next in to see us was Ashley Herr from Animal Services. She talked to us about her part-time personnel. A lot of those are college kids and they're going back to college. So she's looking for help again. She also said she's losing some of the part-time help to full-time positions as well. So she's in the active mode of replacing those folks. She talked to us about training that she's been to here recently. She went to Gaylord and attended the Michigan Shelter Training with Polly from MDARD and Dr. Kathy Anderson, who's a veterinarian. And she also went to Orlando for a Best Friends National Conference. And she talked about the training that she received there. And it was good training. She talked to us about dog bites. They are up. And because Julie from the Herald Palladium was in the room, asked that, that the public be informed on stray dogs, not to approach them. They're thinking that a lot of these dog bites are increasing because, you know, people are touchy-feely and they see these stray dogs and they want to give them a hug, and the dog gives them a bite back. So Ashley asked Julie to be nice to do an article on, you know, if you see a stray, the best thing to do is just call animal control, let them handle it. So we took care of that. She talked to us about the trunk or treat on October the 26th. She highlighted the fact that microchipping is up from 450 to now 3,335.
Wow.
So, yeah, that's great. And she was asked about the court-ordered animals. Remember how initially there was a problem with hanging on to animals so long because of court orders? She said that's working out very well. They don't have nearly the animals on court order that they used to. So that's a good thing.
Not staying as long.
Hmm?
They're not staying as long now.
Correct, they're not staying as long, so it's working out well. We do have some resolutions for you the next time we get together. Resolution ending in 324, this is to authorize the design work for the juvenile center and the old hospital. You remember Brian's talked to us many times about, you know, we have to do something with the sewer and the water out there, get us off that water tower. This is to do, to have all the design so that then the work can be performed. Resolution ending in 328, this is to apply for a grant. This covers part of the salary for Rocky Adams out at the EOC. So this is through the state of Michigan. And then resolution 331, this is a big thank you to Honor Credit Union, who donated furniture that the not animal control, that the county juvenile center is going to accept. So this is a resolution thanking them for that donation. We had our chair and Brian in to see us, and that is our report.
For admin,
Just a quick one.
Yes, sir.
Is there a reason that was given for the increase in chips in the dogs that they're seeing?
Not that I'm aware of. Do you guys hear any why she said microchips are up? She was just,
she didn't say why, but they're pushing.
I'm sorry.
I know they've been pushing it more and doing it as they buy licenses and things, so I think they're making a
Yeah,
concerted effort to increase that.
making a concentrated effort, so maybe this is the results of that.
Yeah, I think
She
so,
didn't specifically say, that I recall.
but it's a huge increase.
Yeah.
Do you know how much it costs to get a chip? I mean, is it going down, is it going up?
No, that I don't know.
Didn't ask her cost, but I-
Yeah, didn't ask her what the cost is.
Something like
Don't
that.
know.
Thank you.
You bet.
Okay. Personnel.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We met today and we approved our minutes and then had a number of resolutions. We authorized the per diems for the month, appointed Don Trail as the new building and grounds superintendent. There was a request from the Village of Eau Claire for the donation of the Silver Beach playground equipment that's going to be removed. So the village will be responsible for removal and installation. So our attorney did a great job putting together a release and explanation of what's actually happened. And then a complement change for building and grounds are combining 2 part-time positions into 1 full-time, primarily intended to solve the problem that they can never fill the 2 part-time positions. We had an advanced step hire from the health department for a hearing and vision technician. So that's been vacant. So we did approve that. We had a brief discussion about the meeting frequency and then had Jill in to talk about the update for the Parks Department. And so we went through pretty much all the work being done at Silver Beach, as well as the plans for the discussion about replacing the 20-year-old temporary facility at the concession stand at Silver Beach. So that went good. And then we talked a little bit about the damage down at Glen River and the plan for fixing that. And so we had a good discussion with Jill. Other things we touched on briefly were the 5-year Parks and Recreation Plan and the various agreements that we have with different entities for events down at Silver Beach. So good meeting. And then we had the benefit of our chairman and administrator and legal counsel coming to share with us and talk through some issues. And so that went very well. And that, I believe, concludes my report.
Thank you. Questions for PHS? John, you want to do finance?
Sure. First, a very important part of our day, we were introduced to who will be our new recording secretary. Her name is Karen. Would you help me out on her last name?
I believe it's Cyber.
Okay, Karen is our new recording secretary, all right? And she's going to replace Stephanie Carlson, who has retired. So we're excited about that, and so we look forward to that. We met with our administrator and the chair, got an update on Pipestone Lake and some change in taxation, an update on where we're at on the change of the taxation value of the Cook plant. We had Nate followed up with finance from Riemann Robson, and we had a few questions for him, and kind of got into more detail about the Act 51, what we're doing to try to make sure that we can coalesce with that audit in the future. We approved the minutes. We had one waiver. The waiver we mentioned last week was for, we approved for 2 existing furnaces. We needed to improve in the Broda garage. We can't thaw the equipment out fast enough between shifts or even overnight to get the snow off of the vehicle. So we got a couple of furnaces that are going in there to get that job done. And so we did that through a request for waiver. Let's see, we had some bid openings, and we had 2 bid openings. One bid opening was for the road department, and it was for some installation of culvert. We actually, normally we would send this back to the road department and let them choose the lowest qualifying bidder. In this case, because there was so much disparity between what they thought the projected cost would be and what the actual bids came in, we asked for more. I think they were surprised as well. The projected cost of the project was about $685,000. The 2 bids came in at about 1.2 and almost $1.3 million. So they were about twice what they thought the project. So we thought best to get some kind of an explanation before. So we sent that back to them. The other one was for building and grounds, and it was a rebid that was done. We had a projected cost of $43,000, and the bids came in at $134,000 and some change, and almost $52,000. And so we sent that back. One is closer to the projected cost, so we sent that back to building and grounds. See, we had some 2 contract modifications. One was in the scope of what by policy we allow to have happen without coming back to the finance committee. It was for the awarded contract amount was for $154,240.26, and the net change was $9,498.41. So that can be taken care of in-house. And so, and the reason for the contract change, it was in New Buffalo, there was a decrease in some materials and an increase in others, and it amounted to a little less than $10,000. And so we approved that contract modification. The other one was a road project in Sodus Township. They had to go a little further than they thought. The net change in the awarded contract was about $220,000. The net change was for $52,877.03, and it was due primarily to materials and distance that they had to cover. And so we approved that. I think, have I covered everything? You get it all? All right. You get it all? Questions?
Okay, if there are no questions, we'll go to commissioner reports and we'll go clockwise.
I have no report other than, please be kind, it's fall. There's going to be a lot of big equipment on the road. Share the road with the farmers. We talk about this all the time, but anything the sheriff can do to help in that project to get a little radio messaging out or something, I would appreciate it. It's a busy time and some of that equipment that gets on the road's pretty big right now, so appreciate it. And I apologize, but I have to leave, so thank you.
Thanks, John.
Great.
So yesterday, along with Commissioner Majerick, I attended the Mental Health Authority Board meeting. Something interesting that happened, we just got a presentation from our friend of the court representatives or some of our probation officers that work with the juveniles. And she just told us how she interacts with Riverwood and the family and the juveniles that they have a case with. And it was really interesting to see, you know, how much collaboration there is between the family, the juvenile, and Riverwood and the courts. So that was something interesting that came from that meeting. I also attended BC Bit last week with Commissioners Freeling and Curran. We got some updates there regarding just some of the monies that we're going after to kind of tackle that equity that that we're trying to just reach towards in our broadband efforts. And then I attended our state committee on juvenile justice meeting in Lansing, and there we received some training from some of the guidelines and policies that are coming from the national level, as well as the state juvenile justice task force. We also formed a residential advisory committee that's going to focus more on just some of the new updates and efforts that are taking place within the juvenile centers themselves. And that concludes my report.
So I've got some good news to report. Laura Freeling, our Register of Deeds, was named Register of Deeds for the state of Michigan for the year. So that's exciting. On a less than exciting note, many of you know Bernice Trethaway passed away, and she received the same award that Laura just received back in 1991. So it is kind of interesting. I attended a meeting of the CEO Council run by the Chamber, and then the annual meeting for the Bering Community Foundation. There was a mention of the fundraising for the Silver Beach playground equipment. And so that was well received. And then also encourage, make sure everyone gets their surveys in. Thank you.
I got the chance to attend the SMCA board meeting yesterday. We accepted our 2025 ESG grant. We approved the fiscal year 2025 budget. There are 3 pieces of legislation in the State House that they're looking at, House Bills 88, 89, and 90 respectively, about water affordability and water shutoffs. They did a lot of work with Benton Harbor with the water distribution. So it's been a really big focus area. They also have funding to help with water shutoffs up to a certain point. So I had the chance to connect them with our state representative, Joey Andrews, and he endorsed, or at least said to them that those 3 bills are ones that he would support and try to push in the future. So that is my report.
No report. No report.
I attended last week after this meeting, our brownfield redevelopment. We had much discussion regarding the modern plastic sale and the potential of the rehabilitation of that land, what will happen in the future. So that was a great discussion. Attended CEO on Friday out at Benton Township. That was a good meeting. We also were able to work on some materials management committee twisting of arms on officials. So that was, I think, successful as well. And then we had a parks meeting yesterday, most of which Bob has covered. I will mention we got Biketoberfest coming up here in October out at Love Creek. And then the deer hunt has been set for, I think, Love Creek and Madeline Bertrand. I think it's both parks in November 15th through 19th. And oh, and then another thing we had much discussion on, and it would be interesting to hear input from all of you, is we've been approached by some cannabis companies on some sponsorship opportunities. And so there was much discussion within the Parks group on, is that a yay? Is that a nay? What's the benefits? What's, all of that. We did not reach any agreements. We did table it till next month, but it's an interesting thing to think about. So anyway, that's my report.
Your report?
Are you done?
Went to the meeting, thank you. And along with Commissioner Bell, we had the Riverwood last night. Good news is, I think in March, I was spouting doom and gloom in their projected financials, but costs are not as bad as they thought and everything is okay. So it looks like it's gonna be a good year for them with taxes and Medicare and Medicare. And so that's a good thing. Also, I went to the SUPDIT meeting, which is I always forget, the Substance Use Disorder Oversight Policy Board. And we went over and signed up for the PA $2. And I passed around a sheet with everything on it. And we are also in line with all those numbers. I did notice one thing, that this year we added Carol's Hope to it. So they're gonna be getting dollars from the tax increments and tax alcohol plans. And I'm gonna finish passing this around. The only thing that concerned me is we do have right now proposed budget total carryover of 700,000. And each year, 26, 27, 28, by estimate of 2028, we're gonna be down to 398. Nothing to worry too much about, but just as we plan, we keep spending more and more money. I don't know where it's gonna come from, but we still have quite a few years, because that's only about 100,000 a year that we drop. That's all. I have the report.
You never have anything.
I have no report.
So they look.
I wanted to hear that. Really?
Hold me back. Okay, what happened?
It's harvest season.
Oh, okay. Well, that makes sense. Do you have any?
Yes, sir. All right, as a follow-up, microchips. Thaddeus and I had a race to see who could find the feed quicker. He won the race. So $25 is the standard microchip fee. It is discounted to $15 during the vaccine clinics that the department hosts on a regular basis throughout the year. So that's item one. Item two is, sir, I think we probably need to do just a head check for next week. I believe that we will not have a quorum for next Thursday.
That's gonna cause great grief and pain amongst. But who's gonna be elsewhere? John's gonna be harvesting grapes. He's already said that. Do you have
There's
stuff on the
5 of
farm?
us going to.
Okay,
So that's 6 that will be absent next week.
Yeah.
well. Madam Clerk, can you post something to say we won't be meeting next week? Okay, great, thank you.
Mr. Chair, it should be noted, the clerk has a tear rolling down her cheek.
I see that. Now, do any committees have anything that they need to be doing that would require having a committee meeting? Admin, PHS? Okay, all right, then, committee meetings are canceled as well. We have reached the point we all look forward to, general public comments. Anything under the sun in 2 minutes or less, name and town if you wish to opine.
Michael Haskins, Pipestone Township. I guess Mac has just taken some wind out of my sails. Balloon maybe went by. One of the things about Bering County's commissioners is they meet on a 4 times a month basis normally. That enables to be ahead of the curve on such things as broadband. It enables you to pick up on opportunities that will slip through other counties. Keep doing what you're doing. I don't get paid to be here. You folks do. You do a great job. Our staff has a tough time doing this on a weekly basis. Imagine their workload if it was twice a month or less. It would not go down, it would go up. And again, the balloon would float by and things would get off your radar. Keep doing what you're doing. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. And there is a $20 bill on your chair when you. Yes, sir.
Counselor Hager. No, I was really surprised. There's a nice drinking fountain out there and it works. I was able to fill up my bottle. Surprise, surprise. Somebody should have phoned me. I was almost shocked.
We wanted to surprise you, Mr. Pelzer.
Now, about that dog biting. Now, I usually go jogging, not anymore. I got walking. And I see people walking their dog. You know, they're usually on a beach, sometimes on the beach. We're out there at the senior center. I'll say, does the dog bite? Of course, they always say no. And what do I say? How does he eat? Okay, now last week I kind of made an ass out of myself about the gas tax.
No.
He's still laughing about the Anyway, I thought that 6% went towards the gas, the state. I went to talk to Miss Google, you know, and get on my phone. Okay, the Michigan, the federal tax on a gallon of gas is 18 cents, okay? Then you got Michigan gas tax is about 28 cents. And then you have 1% environmental tax. I don't know what that is. Then 6% is a regular sales tax. Now that is not part of the gas tax. The state does not take it and work on the roads. That goes into their, no, it's a regular sales tax. Like when you buy a car or go to a hardware store, you got to pay 6%. So I want to clear that up a little bit, okay? So the tax went up about 50 cents yesterday or day before. So that means 6% of that, they're getting an extra 3 cents this week compared to last week. People don't seem to realize that. I thought all that money went into the fixing the road, but apparently not.
2 minutes, sir.
That's my complaint.
Thank you. When the person said, does your dog bite? It wasn't Inspector Clouseau, was it? Remember, does your dog bite? And then the dog bit him and the innkeeper said, he said, that's my dog. Anyway, anyone else wish to be heard from?
Not after that.
All right. Fair enough, fair enough. Other business, she's not here, but it's Mamie's birthday. So we could either sing to her and maybe she could watch this on YouTube, but if she's not YouTube acclimated with her phone, let's just remember to do a belated happy birthday in 2 weeks, because we won't be here next week. So your call, we could either do it now.
We need to do it first.
Okay, do it in person, and we'll get a cake and some cupcakes and such, and we'll pay that out of the secret commissioner slush fund or whatever, so.
Which one?
Yeah, which one is right?
The same one that the $20.
Right, the one in Switzerland, okay. One that corporate council has, so. Any other business? Yes, sir.
So as many of the board knows, I was appointed to the National Association of Counties Board of Directors. And that came about from a meeting with Matt Chase, the executive director of NACO, back during a MAC conference. I was sitting there reading the capital improvement plan for the county. He walked up to me, had a great conversation just about how I got into government and how I got elected. And he then appointed me to the AI Exploratory Committee, which over the last year and a half put out the report that Brian so graciously sent out to all of our township managers, supervisors, and elected officials. And from there, I was appointed by the incoming president, James Gord, to the board of directors and on a few committees that I now sit on. One of the things I wanted to ask my colleagues is, how do I handle this appointment to NACO's board of directors and to these national committees? And then actual expenses are able for me to be reimbursed for this. So if I'm traveling to a conference, the plane ticket and the hotel would be reimbursed back to me. It wouldn't be a blank check, it's just for those expenses. And I wanted to make sure that it's all in compliance with what we have here.
Okay, yes, sir.
So the reimbursement would be from NACO? Oh, for your travel expenses, and the like, okay.
Well, it seems there's two parts to this. One, I mean, we could simply acknowledge that NACO invited you to serve on one, two committees?
Five.
Five, okay. If we acknowledge that, we're not in any way endorsing the appointments. Because if we endorse the appointments, I think we would then be making those appointments per diem eligible here. And if they're already covering your expenses, we wouldn't want to do that. So we could acknowledge that you're appointed. Then as to the other, well, for corporate counsel, if we acknowledge receipt of this information, does that require anything on the part of the board?
No, I don't think so. I don't think a motion is necessary to make that
Okay,
acknowledgement.
So the clerk could just, in the minutes, reflect that we were told about these committee appointments that Commissioner Pitchford has with NACO, and that we have not endorsed those appointments. We've just received the information. Would that be appropriate?
Yes.
Okay, everybody okay with that? All right, then the second part, they're paying the expenses. Does that do anything under our bylaws?
Yeah, so I had a discussion with Commissioner Pitchford about this, and my recommendation to him, based on what was written in the bylaws, is that he bring the arrangement up with the full board. But I do think that is worthy of consideration. So under the bylaws, the board members are generally prohibited from accepting gifts that would tend to influence the manner in which they conduct their official duties. But there is a mechanism when a commissioner wishes to accept a gift to allow the full board to have a vote and to make a determination as to whether that gift was intended to improperly influence the commissioner. If the board determines that it was not intended to improperly influence the commissioner, they can make that determination, and then the commissioner can accept the gift. But I think there's first really a threshold question for the board to determine here, and that is whether or not the reimbursement for actual travel expenses is a gift under the bylaws. So the bylaws don't define what a gift is. Generally, a gift is considered something that's given without the receipt of anything in return. When thinking specifically about participation on boards, participation on committees, generally the actual reimbursement expenses is, in my opinion, would not traditionally be considered a gift because it's being given in exchange for participation on that board, on that committee, whether it's speaking or otherwise participating. And so in order to sort of resolve this issue of, receiving actual reimbursement actual reimbursement for actual travel expenses and not being clear as to whether the vote should be called upon under the bylaws, I would recommend that the board consider just making a determination as to whether or not actual reimbursement for actual travel expenses constitutes a gift under the bylaws. Now, on that topic, I will mention that the language that prohibits gifts in our bylaws is the same language that's used in the state statute. The State Board of Ethics has visited this question at least 2 times, and that is the question of whether or not a state public official can accept reimbursement for actual travel expenses under the statute. And both times has determined that that is not improper. The rulings are different if it's honoraria or some kind of payment, but for reimbursement for actual travel expenses, they've determined consistently that that's not a gift under the statute. So my recommendation is that the board consider whether or not to consider arrangements like this to be a gift under the bylaws. If the answer is no, I think we can make that determination, and that provides clarity to not just Commissioner Pitchford, but all commissioner members when it comes to reimbursement for travel expenses. If the answer is yes, the commission wishes to consider these to be gifts under the bylaws, then we would move to the next step to determine whether it's being given in an improper manner in this case.
Okay. Dealing with the Internal Revenue Code from time to time, with the state work and gift taxes and things like that. The definition of a gift under the code is something that involves detached, disinterested generosity. Doesn't seem to apply to a situation where you got an airplane ticket that costs $200 and you later get a check for $200 that says reimbursement for airfare. But this has come up, golly, it's been some time ago, but I do recall people would serve on different outside boards or commissions, and they would pay for travel expenses, which is a little different than some of what we have in the county, like with Pokagon, with Riverwood, things like that, where they will do a per diem as well. There's no per diem, as I understand it, with NACO, is that right?
That's correct.
Okay, well, not only for this situation, but for those that may come up. And they surely will. We're gonna have to revisit this at some point. I concur with corporate counsel that we ought to lay down some guideposts for our board, for commissioners going forward. Does anybody want to take a stab at that? Yes, sir.
So, I mean, because I do receive periodically travel reimbursement from Pokagon band. So I'm sensitive, I don't ever see it as being a gift. It's just paying me mileage for coming. So I would say that we should, I would make a motion that we recognize the reimbursement of travel expenses for outside activities is not considered a gift for the purposes of influencing a board member's action. It's just a reimbursement of actual expenses.
Should we reference that provision in our bylaws that corporate counsel was just referring to?
I would think that'd be appropriate.
Part of your motion. Does anybody know what it is?
It's section 4.3.
Okay, great. So is that part of your motion then, that it would not constitute a gift
Yes,
under
it is.
section 4.3? Is everybody clear on that motion? Is there support?
I'll second.
Okay, so moved by Harrison, supported by Majerick. Any discussion about it? Yes, ma'am.
You have a question. Is every member of all the committees of all of NACO, do they all receive travel reimbursement?
I can't speak, so I'm not.
Yes, sir.
I have a question, and this is probably for you, Bob. Your association with, you said the Pokagon band, Are you listed as Commissioner Bob Harrison, or are you just listed as Bob Harrison?
Bob Harrison.
Okay, you're not there as in an official capacity as a
That's
commissioner.
correct.
Very good, thank you.
Alex Michael Ray.
So I have a question. When I attended the Pokagon meeting last week, and I haven't cashed it because I was gonna talk to you first, they issued me a check for $100, but just to Alex Ott, but I'm listed as Commissioner Ott when I attend the meetings. How does that work?
Well, as far as being listed as commissioner, in my opinion, there's nothing in the bylaws that prohibits a commissioner from being recognized as a commissioner on outside boards. Now, there is a provision in the bylaws which says that to the extent that a board member offers their opinion, they need to make it clear that unless otherwise instructed by the board, that it is their own opinion and not the opinion of the full board of commissioners or the county. But there's nothing in the bylaws that prohibits you from being referred to or titled as a commissioner when participating in outside activities. As far as the check, I think if it's for, I mean, it may be exactly what we're talking about here, if it's for reimbursement for travel expenses.
I'll talk to her. We have another meeting in October.
The sheriff.
Well, not to interject, but I've been involved with me since it started. That is a county function because it's county representative on the RSP, and it is a per diem.
Okay, thank you. Michael.
Yeah, I've been appointed to Riverwood and when I first started, thank you, I was an employee of Riverwood. And then they recently took that off, took all the benefits off and just send me a per diem and mileage. And I get that. So that is something I get every once a quarter. It's nominal, but it's what I get.
Ray?
Yeah, thank you, Thaddeus, for that clarification, because I was gonna say, I'm on the state committee for juvenile justice, and so my travel expenses are through MDHHS, and I am listed as Commissioner Bell because the appointment filling that I'm fulfilling is elected official under the age of 28 or something like that. So I am listed as Commissioner Bell, but my opinion and my contributions to the board are that of my own opinion and input.
Very good. Yes, ma'am.
I just like to follow up on my original question, and that is I think to make this determination, the examples that you guys have given, that sounds like they are paying all of the commissioners those same travel reimbursements. And I'd like to understand if that's what NACO is doing in all cases, because if they're only doing it for select individuals, then it is a gift in my mind. And it's not if they're doing it for everybody. Right? Then it is all commissioners that serve on these committees do receive this travel reimbursement. So if everybody is receiving the $100 check or whatever, that's completely different. That's why I asked the question of does NACO do that for all commissioners that serve on these committees?
Sir.
Yeah, I can speak to it in a broad sense. So when we were part of the AI committee, every commissioner didn't actually receive a reimbursement. Your travel was paid for ahead of time, and they gave you, similar to what's happening with Mac. You show up, your hotel is already there, your airfare is paid for. With this predicament specifically being on the board, there are 4 board meetings a year. There's also conferences that kind of come with that. Traveling to and from for other commissioners is paid for by their county. I am in a unique position, and some other commissioners, I'm sure I'm not the only one, where the county is not formally recognizing it and paying a per diem. So they're saying in those instances, we can step in and pay for your travel. It is an option that is available to everyone that is a part of NACO, but specifically I'm in a unique position because I've been appointed to the board of directors. So it's not just a committee, it's their leadership team. And they want to make sure that they make quorum. They want to make sure they have all of their commissioners there when they have board meetings.
Okay, and so they're not paying you beyond the actual expenses.
No. There is no per diem, there is no blank check, there is no, we give you $1,000 and if you only spend 700, you keep 300. I have to submit the receipts directly to them and then I get a check specifically listed out with the reimbursement.
Okay. And when you're there as Commissioner Pitchford, but you're speaking as Commissioner Pitchford, not representing that you're speaking for the Berrien County Board of Commissioners.
Correct. And the nature of the work that we do, it's really your mind, your experiences, your background that you're bringing to the conversation. And you're allowed to talk about issues, specifically AI. One of the reasons why I was selected is since I was born, basically, I've had a controller or something in my hand that's been electronic related or focused. And they wanted that type of voice there. They want a similar voice on their board of directors. So when I'm there, I'm speaking in my capacity as an elected official, but not my capacity in this entire board. I'm not speaking for Berrien County.
Okay. Yeah, because that would, for all of us, would be a problem if we, without prior authorization, if we're serving on a board or commission, said, well, Berrien County believes thus and so. We're speaking for ourselves unless otherwise determined by us as a board that we want to send somebody to MAC or to some other place and say, my board has said thus and so. So that's, yes.
And then just finally, over the last year and a half, I've brought everything that I've done with NACO back to this board during my commissioner reports. I've said, we're working on this, we're bringing this. I've asked for, direct authorization to even send to Brian that couple pager that we put out on AI. And I continue to, and will do that if I am able to keep serving with the boards that I'm on, continue to bring back that information, because I do think with telecommunications, veterans affairs, immigration reform, the Rural Action Caucus, these are all things that do relate to Berrien County and they relate to what we're doing here. So I would love to bring back that information and those opportunities.
Well, and we don't have to give you authorization to serve on NACO. They do their appointments without coming to county boards and saying, we'd like to appoint one of your commissioners or two. They just do it. So we would not be putting our stamp of approval on that, because if we do, the stamp means we're going to be covering your travel expenses. So you're not appointed by our board, you're appointed by NACO. And I don't even know if I would have the authority to do it. But if I did have the authority, I'm withholding it because I don't want to take on the cost since they're reimbursing you. So is it fair enough? Okay. Anybody have anything else? We've got a motion by Commissioner Harrison that was supported by Commissioner Majerick. Is everyone clear on that motion? Yes, sir.
Can I have the motion repeated?
We're voting on whether to treat the reimbursement of actual expenses as a gift under section 4.3 of our bylaws, whether that the motion actually was in the affirmative that said reimbursement of actual expenses for attendance of NACO meetings should not be treated as a gift under section 4.3 of our bylaws. Is that a correct summation?
I broadened it to not just NACO, but other outside organizations.
Okay.
That's why I asked. That's, to me, that's a big difference. You're
Okay.
talking about going forward with that language, the previous language, you're talking about specifically his position.
Right, and I stand corrected.
That's why I wanted the resolution clarified. Are we talking about just Chilcoy, or are we talking about?
Talking about anybody in a similar situation going forward.
Okay. That also kind of goes to the reason why I asked the question of Bob and Alex. When you make appointments, then they are commissioner appointments.
Mhm.
If you don't make those appointments, or we don't make those appointments, that's why I asked Bob, he's not listed as Commissioner Bob Harrison. So if it's not something that comes from this board, they should not be listed as commissioner. They should be just listed as citizen.
Well, Ray mentioned with Community Corrections Advisory, is that, or the one?
No, it's the Committee for Juvenile Justice.
Okay, in Lansing, they list him as commissioner, even though we haven't appointed him to that. And corporate counsel said that's not a violation of our bylaws to list the person's title if they are serving on an outside board, committee or commission.
That we didn't acknowledge or that we didn't even know about? I didn't know about that until he just mentioned it.
Is that,
Is that okay?
That
I
is,
mean,
under the bylaws as they're written now, that's perfectly acceptable.
Okay.
So the members don't cease to become commissioners when they participate on outside
No,
boards or
I
committees
get
or
that, but
commissions.
I guess that some of this conversation should take place at our conflict of interest at the beginning of the year. And I thought as we did those conflicts of interest, as your status changed throughout the year, then you bring it back to the board for updating. But otherwise, the discussion, the in-depth discussion as to what you're doing occurs at that time.
That's right. I'm only commenting on whether it's appropriate to be referred to as a commissioner when participating in outside organizations. And there's nothing in the bylaws that prohibits that.
So hearing your answer, then are you saying that needs to be addressed in our bylaws? It needs to be changed? Or right now, it is tacitly saying it's okay? You can sit on any board you want without our knowledge and be called Commissioner Jim Curran.
That's so what I'm saying now is that is true under the bylaws as they're written. If the board as a whole wishes to change that, then amending the bylaws would, I believe, be necessary. I'm not in any way recommending that change be made or not made, but that's what would need to occur.
Okay, thank you. Good enough.
Ray?
So if I could speak to the conflict of interest and when we update that, it was my understanding that when we become part of something that could potentially pose as a conflict of interest. For example, I am on the Caring Connection Board, which was formerly known as the Avenue, formerly known as Child and Family Services. The Board of Commissioners, we give financial contribution to West Michigan Guardianship, which is under Caring Connection, and I have noted that in my conflict of interest form, and whenever a vote occurs on that particular issue, I abstain from that. So it's that example that I always reference and look to when I am a part of something, but something like the Juvenile Justice Committee or any of the other boards that I sit on that don't have that same potential of conflict, I have not necessarily noted that in my conflict of interest form, because to me, those are separate things, no matter if I'm commissioner or not, because they're not asking for my contributions from a Berrien County Commissioner's perspective, but as an elected official, just in general, as someone who is a part of government in general, that's the role that I fulfill on those committees and boards.
To the question about the title and how it's utilized, I look at it in no different than a doctor. You know, do I refer to a doctor as Dr. So-and-so only when they're practicing and in the office, or do I do it out of respect and honor? I guess just I was taught that you just always do it out of respect and honor. So the title is something that we utilize because we wear that as a representative of that title. The key part of this discussion is when we are being addressed as commissioner, are we being addressed commissioner as a representative of the voice of Berrien County? And that's where the appointment and the recognition from this board needs to be clear, because if they are only doing it in the capacity of their own voice, they very much have to be clear of, I am speaking on my own accord. This is not representative of a full board, but only my own opinion. And that is addressed in our bylaws. And I think it's also addressed in some of our other policies for public speaking and things along that line as well. And so I think that there are other boards that we do make appointments to. Those are included then in per diems. I think of MAC, the Michigan Association of Counties. We do have some of those committees that we've appointed and recognized formally here. NACO is one of those that if individual commissioner is being offered to participate because of the skill set that they provide, as long as they're aware that they're doing it only on their own accord and not on this board's behalf. I think that corporate counsel has done a good job of helping navigate and walk through that. Those are just my thoughts.
Yes, sir.
Thank you for that, Commissioner. The first thing that popped into my head is, okay, when you stop being a doctor, you're still called a doctor. When we are not elected as commissioners anymore, we're not called commissioners. And I think there is the implication that if I see Commissioner Jim Curran, automatically I make that assumption that it's endorsed or I'm being recommended by the full Board of Commissioners. And I've been around long enough, and even with the school board, to understand that I have to sometimes say, this is me speaking, this is not me as Commissioner Curran speaking. That's a very difficult thing to do. It's hard to take that hat off and on. But I guess my point was that if you're listed in a article or anything as Commissioner Jim Curran, that we should at least know about it. Because anybody who sees that is going to think it's automatically endorsed by us. And to what Thaddeus said, I'm perfectly fine with the conversation that's occurring now, but I think we do need to look at that in our bylaws and maybe change it. I don't know. That probably bears more discussion.
Yes, sir. Anyone?
I can add to that. I mean, to what Ray said, that brought up, I serve on the American Red Cross just as a volunteer, just help. And they asked me locally, well, would you serve on our emergency operations? And I was like, yeah, no, that would be too much of a conflict, because when I was at a meeting, like with Jim and Dave being there, they're gonna say, well, are you Commissioner Werfel? Or are you with the Red Cross, right? It's a huge conflict there. So, and it would be confusing to anybody in the room, obviously, because there's a conflict, so.
I wonder, come January, or before we get to January, would there be any benefit to taking a look at that form that we fill out every year? Or sometimes just sign something saying no changes. Would there be any benefit, any interest in revising that form to say that it's conflict of interest and disclosure of outside committee appointments or something like that? Because we already know what people are doing here, because we've either appointed them as a board or as the chair. But simply just an FYI, I serve on this, and this. Then everybody would know what everyone, or we'd all know what each and the other is doing, because we would have listed it on that other place. If we just put it under conflict of interest, I concur with Ray that it's not per se a conflict of interest. So it would simply be a disclosure of outside committee activities or outside entity activities or something like that. I mean, I'm on a foundation board. I don't think I've ever disclosed it because they don't do any business with us, but probably should, because we might someday go to that foundation and say, for instance, would you in some money to close the gap for the new parks equipment at Silver Beach? And I was actually thinking about bringing that up at the next meeting in October. So I would abstain from voting, but yeah, I think maybe just to err on the side of caution, it might be a good idea to add that.
But on that foundation, you're Mac Elliott. You're not Commissioner Mac Elliott, correct?
They show my title.
Commissioner?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah. I didn't ask them to, they just do. And then it says attorney and, so, yes, sir.
And there's some strange gray area here where on some documents and things I'm referred to as Honorable Chokwe Pitchford, not Commissioner Chokwe
Well, we
Pitchford.
don't want to push it, you know.
And that's because in some areas around the country, commissioners are referred to as honorable. And that kind of takes your title out and it just kind of authorizes you as an individual in your capacity.
Sure. Well, okay. Any other questions, comments, concerns? Okay, so are we clear on what it is that we're voting on?
So the motion is strictly what we're talking about now?
I think it was prospective, broader, yeah. Yeah, so that if somebody was in a similar circumstance and they were reimbursed for actual travel expenses only, that would not constitute a gift under section 4.3 of the commissioner's bylaws.
Okay, thank you.
Is that clear to everyone?
Mr. Chair, just as a point of clarification, I'm hoping that we can have the motion clarified for the clerk and corporate counsel.
I tried to do that.
I know.
I thought you did a very good job.
I did too.
Just.
So I believe the motion is to determine that reimbursement for actual travel expenses only would not be considered a gift under section 4.3 of the commission's bylaws.
Everybody clear? Okay. Madam Clerk, when
They
you're ready.
also said outside committee appointments.
Okay, clarifying that, let me restate the motion once more, please. Reimbursement for actual travel expenses by an outside organization or agency would not be considered a gift under section 4.3 of the commission's bylaws.
That's better. Everybody good with that language? Yes, sir.
So the yes vote is we are okay with that.
We're saying it's not a gift if we vote yes.
Okay, yes vote is not a gift.
Yeah, if we say no, we think it is a gift. Okay. When you're ready, Madam Clerk.
Freeling,
Yes.
Harrison,
Yes.
Engelmann, sorry. Jerry,
Yes.
Yes.
Pitchford,
Yes.
Walrath,
Yes.
Werfel,
No.
Bell,
Yes.
Curran,
Yes.
Elliott.
Yes.
Mr. Chair, you have 9 yeas and 1 nay.
Okay. Thanks, everyone, for taking the time to go through all of this. Anybody have any other business?
You just email it. Yeah. Since my computer went down.
Yes, sir. Sheriff, did you have
Slowed me
something?
down.
Oh, sir.
You did like Commissioner Ott, you moved your hand and you made a bid on the car. Okay. Under announcements and reminders, you can see the county's 5-year plan is listed, and if people wanted to come in and comment today during the open house, which just started 7 minutes ago and will go till 2 o'clock here in the admin building. And then there's also a means to comment by mail to parks@berriencounty.org, or you can drop off written comments at Love Creek, Madeline Bertrand, Silver Beach, or in the Dropbox here at this building. So, with that, we will not be here next week, remember. If you come, you're gonna be alone. And then we will be back on whatever the day is 2 weeks from today. Is that the, pardon? 33rd, October 2nd, 3rd, okay, 33rd. Yes, ma'am.
Quick question, that just reminded me. Jill said yesterday at the Parks meeting that there were budget hearings for commissioners next week?
No.
Not
That was an
anymore.
incorrect statement by Joe.
didn't know about this.
No, they're not. Haven't scheduled them yet. Anything else?